Yeah. All right. We got it to all work. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm your host, Ari Kardosh, and I am here with the amazing Leona. Leona, welcome to this whole event. It's so nice to see you. She and I have been trying to meet up for a while, and I'm like, of course we get to meet up on Zoom first before we get to hang out and have our
Exactly, but it feels like having a tea with you. So happy to be here with you, Ari, and with everyone tuning in today.
yay. Leona, just give us a brief introduction of like who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so I am originally from New York, but I've been an expat for about 16 years now. I've always been fascinated by other cultures, other countries, and recently other realms, so spirituality, and consciousness. I have a day job as the Global Outreach and Engagement Manager for an international environmental IGO. So we work on forestry and climate change issues. And on the side, my passion project is working as a transformative life coach. And I've been doing that for a number of years as an accredited ICF coach and started off coaching people like me, corporate sector, perfectionism, overdoing. And recently, as we'll be talking about today, a new passion really emerged, and that is unconscious motherhood.
Conscious motherhood. Okay, so not everybody knows what conscious motherhood is. Can you tell us a little bit about what is that exactly?
Of course. So this is all, I do want to spend some time define it as you've asked,
Yeah.
because this is all new in my field. I am a new mother. My baby girl was born during the COVID pandemic. We were really
Congratulations.
fortunate. Thank you. Aries met her a bunch of times.
She's so
We
cute.
were super blessed. I actually moved to Bali weeks, I think a month only before the pandemic hit worldwide, from Bangkok, big crazy city, to Bali, to Ubud, which is a spiritual mecca where, we talk a lot about consciousness and healing. So what is consciousness? Consciousness is really your awareness of your own thoughts, your patterns, and the world around you. And I think the cool thing with consciousness is the more that you're plugged into it, the more that you can shape and create your reality around you. And it's really cool when you start getting it. It's like, wow, if my thoughts really manifest to my actions, and I see this, the whole world becomes this mirror. So that's consciousness. And then what is conscious motherhood? So it's related. Conscious motherhood is really slowing down from the moment, even before you conceive, to conception, through the whole 9 months of your pregnancy, really tuning in with, what are my fears around the birth? And it can be anything from physical fears, oh, it's going to hurt, I'm going to need an epidural, whatever it is, to will I be a good enough mother? Can I do this? Will it affect my marriage? So all these fears need to be expressed, because by naming these fears, we can really reduce their impact on us. And also
Hmm.
really tuning in with our bodies, because as women,
Yeah.
we're obviously, yes, we're obviously told to eat well and to exercise and do everything for the baby, but sometimes we neglect ourselves, like the mother in this. So what does the mother need? Do you need a massage? Do you need, just a walk on the beach? So this incredible 9 months for you to really grow your baby in a healthy way, but also for you to transform yourself and birth yourself as a new woman and as a mother.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes. Yes.
that is conscious birth and pregnancy. And motherhood is, postpartum, that's when the crunchy stuff happens. And for
Yes.
me, the real initiation into your spiritual journey, because you're confronted with a lot. And this is all the kind of inner child work that I want to talk about today, is that when you have this precious baby in front of you, you reflect on your own childhood. What did you receive? What didn't you receive? How do you want to parent? Perhaps in the same way that worked, or something totally different. So here you are with a blank slate, and it's super empowering. And that's why when you bring consciousness to it, it can be such a transformative and empowering experience. So yeah,
I
that's
love
what
it.
I'm here to talk about today.
I love it. And as a mom myself, it's like I can so relate with your journey, and I'm excited to watch what you've been doing with your daughter, and then share some like examples of what we've been doing with our kids. And it's just such an interesting journey. And I think the thing you highlighted about, you know, the journey began before conception, but then it really got even more crunchy and exciting post baby arriving, right? And I think this is just not something that our cultures and I say that like globally now, are not talking about very much. There isn't very much initiation anymore. There isn't for many, many, many places around the world. You don't live with the multi generations. You're not getting the wisdom from grandma and wisdom from mom, and it's more of like wisdom from Google, and that only goes so far. So coming back to how can we tune into our bodies? How can we tune into what we need and not get lost in the new role of motherhood, the new title, the new, all the attention going to the baby and not to ourselves is really different and challenging. So I love
Mm.
it. I love that you're bringing this up.
Thanks, Ari. Yeah, it was, this whole journey for me was such a surprise, to be honest, because
Yeah.
growing up, I grew up in New York. My grandmother was a first generation immigrant, tough lady, career woman, learned English, just made it over there without speaking a word of English with four kids. And then
Wow.
my parents got divorced. My mother was a single mom, held, two, three jobs, was a doctor. So it was a lot of these very tough archetypes in my family. So I grew up with that. And I was always like, you know what, career first. I'm never going to depend on a man. So that was really my thing. And I had a really solid kind of career progression, and that was my thing. And I was like, motherhood, it can wait. I'll do it in my 40s. It was really something I was like, it's not for me right now. I always
Yeah.
knew I wanted to be a mother, but it didn't feel that visceral, strong desire. And I guess where the spiritual journey all happened, and it's a long story, but I'll tell you in a nutshell,
Yeah, I
just
think
for a little
this is
sneak
great.
peek. Yes, I am actually writing a memoir on this, so more to come. But
Okay, great. Yeah.
basically, yes. Basically, I was here in Bali and I was part of a meditation, and I had a very deep download during this meditation. I went in just kind of, wanting to align what's my purpose here as a human. Work and career was fulfilling, but, the deeper questions of why am I here that we all ask ourselves from time to time. And the download I got was so crystal clear and surprising. And it was to be a conscious mother. And I was like,
Wow.
what? And the thing is, it's very nuanced. It wasn't just to be a mother and have children. It was to be a conscious mother and heal your ancestral trauma
Wow.
from your ancestors. And I was like, what does this mean? And at this point I was working for the United Nations at this point, thinking about, okay, what's my next position, et cetera. And all of a sudden, I get this download and I was like, it has to be more, am I not supposed to be Mother Teresa and opening orphanages? And Spirit was like, no, no, no. It's not about the outside world. It's about you raising healthy children who feel completely loved unconditionally and know they're enough. And by doing this and breaking that ancestral pattern, which I'll speak to in a second because these can be kind of alien vocabulary if you haven't heard it before, it is the most important job on the planet. We get really swept up in our job titles or what we're doing materially, but everyone on this world is someone else's child. And if you grow up and you're treated with respect and love, then you're going to act very differently than a child who's been deprived of that. So when I had this download, it really gave me goosebumps. And I thought, wow, this is a huge responsibility. This is not just about, getting a kid through the childhood years. This is really about the imprint they have and their belief systems. So it started there. And I conceived a month after I had a horrible corporate burnout. The first time in my life, Ari, it was like 10 days of fever, no virus, no bacteria. Went to the hospital. I could barely move, and they were like, it's completely psychosomatic. And it was a shock. It was a complete shock because I'd always been someone, like go, go, go. And it was like a new organization, a new project. I was the first employee. So I burned the candle at both ends. And I think what was so beautiful in this inner child healing happened because a month before I conceived, and I didn't conceive, consciously in the sense that I was like, okay, we need to make love tonight. It really came in the field. I was calling it in, but it happened when it did. But a month before, I had this burnout and I was so weak. My body was so weak. And I was just so overwhelmed. And I said, I need some help. I don't know what to do. I just feel so overwhelmed. I feel weak. And I really needed some support. And then I ended up seeing a therapist for the first time in my life.
Well,
Huge stigma in Asian culture, huge.
yeah.
And, and I'm someone I've always been like, no, I don't have any issues. I'm super happy. I'm super positive. But it was a game changer, Ari. And I really, really encourage people to do this work because so much of, who you are, even though you're unique, it's that, nurture versus nature. You have your human nature, our unique DNA and our soul purpose, but our environment shapes us.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think completely, and we're not always aware of it. And for myself, the reason I had that burnout, my childhood wound was abandonment because my parents divorced when I was young. My mother was super loving, but didn't really have a choice, wasn't home a lot. So, my therapist, over many sessions just helped me see my self-worth was, in my view, linked to my accomplishments. So it was always like top of the class, job, whatever. It was all this external validation because deep down I didn't feel I was enough for my parents to spend time with me. And it really was very tough for me to realize that. But it was so empowering because the thing with the inner child is just, every adult, all of us, we have it. It's a small part of us that never grew up that really needs love and validation. And the problem is if we don't do this work on healing it, it affects our relationships now in the present. And anything can have a deep scar on your inner child. It can be divorce, abandonment issues like me. It can also be your best friend moving away, something that feels that benign. But it's like the part of your personality that stays, reacts, and feels like a child. So if you ever react really intensely and you feel out of control, you're like, whoa, what is that? That's the inner child calling for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think what's really beautiful is that we shouldn't reject the inner child. We really want to give space to understand it. And what's beautiful and what I do in my coaching now, now that I'm a mother, I've expanded. I'm super passionate about coaching women through this because you have a child in front of you. What a beautiful gift. You're seeing this child, it's your child, but you can also see your own inner child. And what would you say to your inner child? Sometimes the way we talk to ourselves is so judgmental and tough, and we would never say that to our own beloved babies. So this whole work is just can be completely, completely multidimensional. And
Mm.
having the birth in Bali, like you said, self-care, so much rituals, so much sisterhood. I had beautiful, blessings, the Balinese priest for my baby, really calling in intentions. Everything was done with a lot of intention. And, Reiki, craniosacral therapy, just really calling in all the vibrations I wanted for this child, which was the vibration
Mm.
of love. So,
That's
yeah.
so beautiful. Wow. Wow. I love what you brought up. I mean, all of this is beautiful, but I'm especially drawn to how much we don't understand that we as mothers, we as adults especially, don't give enough attention to this inner child that is hurting. Like that we all have this inner child. Like I talk about how something traumatic happened for all of us before the age of 7. And it could have been something as simple as like you were crying in your bed and your mom was walking towards you to pick you up, but then the doorbell rang and she walked way to into the door first. And you didn't know why that happened. You didn't have the tools and resources to cope with it, right? It happened and it left an imprint. And so for you, you could really see like these are some really big marks of periods of time that shook me up as a child. And there were lots of small things too. And not everyone has to have a divorce or something like that to say I had childhood trauma. We all have had childhood trauma. So how can you be compassionate with yourself in that space and recognize that parenting is going to trigger all of those things, all of those traumas back up, and not just for you, but if you have a partner with you too, they're going to be in their trauma too, because that's what kids kind of do. They help surface all the emotions and all the situations and be able to love on yourself and love on your child. And if you have somebody with you, how can you have compassion for their inner child going through their own stuff, their own tantrums too, right? So I thought it was so beautiful, and now you can incorporate all that in. So wow, so much you're doing right now.
And yeah, and I think it's such an important topic. And like I love speaking about this with you because I know you're also super into conscious parenting, and your partner Jamin is into has a conscious fathers group. So this is such important work because when we talk about ancestral trauma and that vision I saw when I had my download, I think what's really important, Ari, to say to the audience today is it's not about blaming your parents, right? And I see it as a new mother. It's so hard. You're sleep deprived, you're figuring things out, mistakes, accidents happen. It's not badly intentioned. I think what's really important, like you said, is our parents are from a different generation. They might not have had the tools or the resources, or as we said, the consciousness to be aware of these actions. And I think what's really beautiful and the work that I do and that I'm passionate about is bringing light to these things, so that we can rewrite the family script. So ancestral trauma is basically that big elephant in the room of, it can be anything like scarcity. Let's say your parents, like my husband's like this. His parents always saved everything, And my mom was a spender. She would spend everything. So we always like we conflict on this because it's what you've grown up with. And and then it's interesting to kind of like break that and say, okay, where did that come from? That scarcity from my husband's side or the need to indulge. And by addressing it, you rewrite the script. And I think that's what's so empowering. And I'm really blessed to have an amazing husband who's walking this path of self-growth with me. So we're doing this together. And, we're here in Bali with this incredible community and just being able to be really vulnerable, really real, and honest communication, your relationships coach. So I want to talk about this honest communication. It's so important to just say, this is what I grew up with. This is what my inner child needs. This is what my inner child has trauma around, And then, like you said, do it with compassion rather than blaming your partner and saying, oh, why are you always like this? And it takes work. It's not easy at all. But it's really beautiful to say we can rewrite the whole script and do it with consciousness and with love and intention and presence.
Oh, so good. Okay, so I want to ask more about like how do we do this? It sounds really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Just be a conscious parent. That's all.
Easy.
Done. I want to go back to the starting point when you said tune into your inner child. How do you even, if you've never spent time with your inner child, never gotten to know your inner child, how do you even start there?
Yes, very good question. So honestly, it's an ongoing journey. I started working with my therapist a year ago, and I'm still doing the work. And I think that's life. We're constantly, and I think this is the thing, you have to be dedicated to self-growth, self-discovery, and just revealing and being interested in yourself, because the inner child model, it's been around for a long time, this concept in psychology. We block out, our memory blocks out the bad. We remember the good things and we block out the traumatic, icky stuff. But that is where you need to go. And I think that can be really hard. So this work takes courage, it takes patience and it takes courage, because you have to go and meet your inner child, and your inner child, there's parts of you that probably you don't want to meet, the nerdy kid who was 10 years old and got beaten up, or the nerd who was in the library who didn't have, whatever your inner child was. So that work requires first compassion. So slowing down is the first thing I would say. So whether that's through meditation or yoga, or if those practices aren't available, just connecting with your breath, or just really grounding, putting your feet on the earth, just slowing down, disconnecting from the busyness of computers and non-corporate work structure, just slowing down, cutting out the noise. And I think a really beautiful practice is just tuning into your heart and just, picturing yourself as a child, whether it's using a picture or just picturing your own face. And like I said, when you're a parent, it's easy. You have your baby, so it's like you can assess those emotions very easily. But just really, without judgment, and just saying, what do you need to tell me? What was this incident? Why did it hurt you? And, I'll give you a concrete example. It feels a bit confusing if it's too abstract. For example, me, because I had this abandonment, and again, I had a great childhood, Ari. I had a great childhood. I was happy. So it wasn't like I was crying in the bathroom. This was all new to me. When my therapist pulled this up, I was like, no, I had a great childhood. I was very defensive at first. But like I said, the mind forgets. And as children, we have protective defense mechanisms that we build. The problem is you don't need those anymore as an adult, but we're still in that 6-year-old or 7-year-old area in Leona, which is like, we needed that defense back then. And so my defense, as I said back then, was let me be the most sparkly, amazing, top of the class type A person. And it worked for a really long time. But until my burnout, where I was like, whoa, this is not sustainable. And can I be loved for being messy and vulnerable and mediocre, and
Yeah.
imperfect? And that was really hard for me. But I went through that journey and it's been so liberating, and you feel whole again. And
Mm.
it's loving those parts of you in the shadow. So, slowing down, step one. Two, really with compassion, curiosity, asking, your inner child. And then the third is speaking to your inner child. So ask that question and then just say to your inner child, you're worthy, you're enough, whatever it is your inner child needs to hear. And we're all different. Someone might be about body image, someone might be that we can't attract a partner, whatever it is. But these are all beliefs, and we need to tell our inner child, okay, I understand that that was your trauma response, but that's not our reality anymore. We're safe. And I think that's the most important thing you can say to your inner child. You're safe, you're held, you're loved. And so I
Mm.
would say that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, I think, yeah, spot on. Spot on. Like, yes, 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 all those things. So you do this inner work for yourself, and then how is this showing up as you? I mean, you are new in your journey. You don't have a teenager yet at home, and I don't either. My kids are now 5 and 6, but every step is a new understanding, a new unfolding of what is it like to be on this parental journey. And I even talked to my mom of where she's at with 4 adult kids, and she's still a mom. And how do you where are you at in your own journey? How do you identify as a mom? What does it mean to you? And so now, first I want to talk about identity, but I also want to talk about like what we do, what we actually do. So I want to come back to that in just a minute. But one of the things I notice a lot of times, I used to run a mom's group, and so much of motherhood is you're supposed to be superwoman. And once you become mom, that is who you are. You are defined by being a mother. And we get lost. And I think that so many moms forget what they love and forget to take care of themselves. And it's all about self-sacrifice. And the more you sacrifice, the better mom you are, even though you're burning out, even though you're snapping at your kids, even though you don't feel connected to the world around you. As long as it's like continuously giving, that's what motherhood love is, right? And it's like that doesn't work. That model doesn't work, especially not if you're not in a community helping you, right? So yeah, so I was just wondering, oh, what am I wondering with that? I think I just wanted to come through of you're not
So
just a
many
mom.
questions.
Yeah, you're not just a
Yes.
mom. I think that's
Yes.
important to just say, like, part of this big journey of being a conscious mother is to be a conscious human and conscious of
I
what you
love that.
where you are.
Absolutely. And Ari, I think that's so important because, when I had this download, okay, your purpose is to be a conscious mother, it was beautiful. It gave me so much purpose. But I am very cognizant of the fact that my purpose is not my daughter. That's unfair to her, right? She has her
Mm.
own purpose here. And like you said, I need to have my own interest, my own passion, and not confuse it, because a lot of parents, like you said, their child becomes everything. And it's very easy for those mothers to fall into the trap of, oh, I sacrificed my career for you, I sacrificed this for you, blah, blah. And that's not fair to put that guilt on your child. So I completely agree with you. I think it is so hard. My baby's 6 months, and honestly, postpartum, the first 3 months after what they call the fourth trimester, is tough. And I had a really amazing, birth where, it was no complications, was really blessed. So I didn't even have a difficult physical recovery, but just navigating the new identity. So you're shedding your old identity, right?
Yep.
And the part of you that's a wife, a daughter, a friend, whatever, all those aspects of you need to hibernate on the shelf for a few months while you give everything to this child. And it's really hard. And I remember going through this dramatic thing. I think we talked about this. I had
Yeah.
super long hair down my waist. I chopped it. I was like, I need to change, because I just felt like, who am I now?
Yeah.
And it takes so long. And I think it was month 4 or 5 where I was like, okay, I'm getting back in the groove. And I completely agree with you. And this is part of the coaching work I do. And I want to express to your audience is I don't simply coach women through pregnancy and birth. That is like the beautiful, I always say this is like the top of the valley. That's a beautiful, it's not easy, but that's the beautiful, blissful part where, you still have quiet, you still have time for yourself. So take as many naps as you can enjoy it.
Yep.
But it's postpartum, right? That's the valley where you're like, whoa, I'm sleep deprived. Whoa, how do I find my center? And that is the work I'm passionate about, because I went back to work after 3-4 months, which is quite typical after maternity leave. And it's hard because, like I said, I was perfectionist, overachiever, and and then the guilt of not being there for your child. So you really have to learn boundaries, priorities, and you do this on lack of sleep with zero time. So creating time, I think it's really important. I think what you said is so important, honoring your self-care. And I struggled with this because I would do meditation and yoga for mornings for an hour before I was a mom. But now, like, no way. I'm up at 4 a.m., 4:30, whatever she wants to wake up. And now 10 minutes, I have to accept that, and just say that's enough. That's all I can do today. But in those 10 minutes, rather than making a checklist, which is very typical of perfectionist overachievers like myself, just saying, hey, okay, what can you do today to allow yourself to be more connected to yourself? 3 questions I like to do in the morning. What can I do so I can be healthy today? And what can I do to fill me with purpose and joy? It can be anything, drinking a glass of coconut water to be healthy. So my advice, especially new mothers, is don't be too ambitious, be compassionate. It's such a beautiful journey, even though it can be difficult and challenging in the beginning, but so many layers of depth. And this woman you're becoming, she's so strong, she's so extraordinary, and just let her go through what she needs to do. But remember, at least 10 minutes a day, I would say, wake up and tune in with yourself. It's so important, even before your partner.
Yeah. If you're able to do that, setting an alarm early is like one of the best things I ever learned how to do, even though that was not what I thought I wanted at the time. Right?
Yes.
It's like I need that extra 10 minutes of sleep. But things you get out of it, the way that it energizes you and can help you move through the rest of the day more grounded and centered and tuned in, is just really incredible. It's really incredible, and it's totally worth the 10 minutes in the days that I chose it, which is, the more I did it, the more I wanted to do it, but it's taking that first step too. So I love it. Are there any other tips you want to give to mamas out there for conscious motherhood? I know you and I could talk forever, but are there any other things, especially as, like a lot of the moms who are tuning in have been going through motherhood in a very interesting bubble, right? Like they've been in the COVID bubble lately, and now things are starting to emerge. I'm just curious if there's any other tips you have for moms in terms of how they can keep this idea of conscious motherhood in their minds as they are doing more.
Yeah, so I think, with this festival, right, the post-COVID kind of coming out party after 2 years of this pandemic, I know it's still lingering, but it feels the world's opening up now. I think what's really important, it was really hard. And like you said, I have a young one. I know there are a lot of moms out there who had a really hard time during the pandemic with homeschooling and juggling work at the same time. So it really took a toll, this pandemic, on all of us, psychologically and emotionally. But I think we can also look at the benefits that came out of it. For one, being able to work from home. So I'm working from home now just because of the pandemic work from home policy of my company. And it's, I miss my coworkers. I'm a super social person, but in a way, so well, it's beautiful as a new mother, because between my meetings, I can go out and give my daughter a hug, even if it's, like I said, 10 minutes, but I'm truly connected with her. And that is so beautiful. And as the world opens up, just thinking of how can I keep some of these practices of more time with my family, more presence. And these are kind of the teachings that this pandemic gave us, and values, right? We've heard about the great quit, the great resignation, people changing to follow their soul's calling. And so I think as we're reconfiguring into a new reality. I think society, we're looking at different ways of existing with work and, personal life. So how do we really define that? And I think that's up to all the mothers here. And I know everyone has different circumstances, but what you said, Ari, is so important. Community. I mean, I couldn't have done it without this beautiful community. I remember you coming over when my baby was just a few weeks old, and, really reach out for support. Because as you said, the superwoman syndrome is real. I totally have it. But just, a friend coming over to bring a meal, or just, help clean up, or whatever it is, that is so important. Just to know you're not alone. And like you said, you're running a mom's group, reach out, go for a women's group, mom's group, and I have a girlfriend here. She has a baby about the same age as me, and we meet, we have weekly lunch dates, and it's so nourishing just to have someone there who's going through it. And, I'm really passionate about this journey to speak up more, as you said, because I think, we can do it all, but I really like this quote, we can do it all, but not at the same time. And I remember reading Michelle Obama's autobiography, and she was talking about how difficult it was to go back to work as a new mother. And, when she went back part-time, she ended up working full-time because she was also a perfectionist, overachiever, and all these things. And her, her marriage issues with Barack. And it was amazing to have a woman, that we so respect, who's at top of game, be real and vulnerable. So I really encourage women to be real with your own friends, your own community, and, follow the social media accounts that are real, not the perfect looking woman, baking cakes and, that is just going to make you feel really bad about yourself. Yes. So be vulnerable, be real, be compassionate, and just know that you're doing an amazing job, and just pat yourself on the back, even in the difficult times.
I love it. Be vulnerable, be real, be compassionate.
Yeah. And Ari, also reach out for support. So whether that's Ari, whether that's me, whether that's a therapist, don't be afraid, because you really helps to go a lot deeper into this. Even if, you're listening to this and you're like, that's cool, I really want to engage my inner child. Like you said, Ari, it's very hard. It takes a lot of work, and it's not just all mental. It's a lot of, what we call somatic work through the body. There's a lot of trauma stored in the body, and there's amazing facilitators here in our community in Bali. But even if you're listening in from all over the world, with technology now, Zoom, that is accessible, I would encourage the exploration.
So good.
Completely. Yeah.
Yep. No, I completely agree. And it's a huge piece. And I don't think there's one person who couldn't benefit from it if they're open to it. And I just encourage you to trust your instinct and your gut, and find whoever is the right professional for you to work with. Don't just take a person. Find somebody who really aligns. So if you're like, oh my God, there's something about Leona that just is like lighting me up and I want to talk with her, like reach out and just start that conversation. Speaking of which, how do people connect with you?
Yes, so I would love to hear from you guys, because Ari and I can talk forever, and I can talk hours about this topic, and there's so much I haven't been able to share. But the book is on its way. It is coming soon, so stay tuned. Yay! In the meantime, you can find me on Instagram. So it's the handle is Leona, my first name, Leona _conscious coach. I also have a LinkedIn, because, as I mentioned, I am a full-time, working career woman, and I'm really proud of that, because I think it can allow me to relate to a lot of my clients who are really juggling that. And before I did conscious motherhood, conscious pregnancy coaching, I really was coaching a lot of people, in New York, Paris, in Europe, and the States, really high pressure corporate jobs at VP level, director level, struggling with values alignment and purpose. And I love that, because I was there, and I chose a very different, reality now that I'm here in Bali, but it takes work, and I love that as well. So I still offer that. So my LinkedIn has a lot of testimonials from, executives at Google and Amazon, kind of back in, not moms, actually mostly men that I've coached in that field. But I think it's really important, are you finding joy and purpose in what you do? So that LinkedIn is just /Leona Liu, my last name Liu, all together. And I have a coaching profile that, Ari, you can share with your audience. It's quite long. I am an associate coach that's affiliated with one of Singapore's leading coaching institutes. And similar to the corporate profile, I coach a lot of high-level directors in Singapore and the government and corporations. So do reach out. I'd love to hear from you. And I do have a giveaway if you have time to hear about.
Yes, tell us what is the giveaway.
All right. So my giveaway with spring is I am going to do a free 30-minute laser coaching session on conscious motherhood. And I know I mentioned all the corporate coaching, but this one is really on conscious motherhood. And the reason I want to do it is because, as I said, this is a really new concept. And I think I've just been really blessed that I was in Bali during my pregnancy and my birth, and I want more people to get acquainted with it. So to participate, it's pretty easy. You go on Instagram, post a photo of yourself. So of your belly if you're pregnant, if this is your first, your second, your third, it doesn't matter, or if you're kids, if you're already a mom. And just submit a short caption, 200 words or less, on what conscious motherhood means to you and why it's important. So I've defined it today, but what does it mean to you? I'm not looking for a textbook definition, but I really want to hear how this talk might have activated you or resonated with you. And then tag me at Leona_conscious coach, and I'll choose the winner 1 week from today, and then I'll get in touch with you. Yes. And I
So
really,
cool.
my thing, Ari, is like, I truly believe my philosophy is we can recreate the world. I work environmental space, and as I said, I worked in the UN, and we've had tons of policy reports, and it's moving the needle, but still slowly, because I think we're still going from the mind. Everyone knows about carbon credits and climate change, but things are moving so slowly. And I truly believe if we can move people from the heart, if we can really activate and raise babies, happy children, we can heal ourselves, humanity, and Mother Earth. And really starts with one happy mama and baby at a time.
Oh my
So
gosh. Yes, yes,
honored
yes.
to help.
So juicy. Thank you, my dear. This is awesome. We shared so much, and good. So good. Thank you, thank you, thank you again for joining us.
Thank
And
you for
I will
having me.
post all this up in our Facebook group, and I'll share all your links. And also for anybody who's tuning in later on, if there's something that is resonating with you, you have a question, you just want to connect with Leona more, you want to ask a question about our talk today, you can post in the group, and we'll make sure Leona comes in and answers it. And then you can also reach out to her personally and participate in this awesome freebie fun of posting a photo and talking about what conscious motherhood means to you. So thank you again, Leona. Looking forward to connecting.
Thank you, darling. So good to be here. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.